Hello, my name is Andrew O. Jackson. I created a two-part, eight-chapter video series titled The Personal Power of Qi, A Revolution in Sports Psychology, with the intent that athletes of all levels and abilities, and no matter what their sport, can understand, access, and actualize their evolutionary self of strength, speed, stamina, agility, reflexes, cunning, and success. Part 1, chapters 1 through 4, A Revolution in Sports Psychology, are about how good feeling emotions guide cognitive behavior towards a strong and powerful physiology necessary for sports competition. Part 2, chapters 5 through 8, The Personal Power of Qi, are how the conscious energy of cognitive emotional behavior, called Qi, radiates throughout the quantum universe of the Tao and aligns the rendezvous of people, places, and events throughout time and space that match an athlete and coach's cognitive emotional state of being in the here and now. Chapter 6, Retrocausality Within the Tao, is about how our Western conception of time and linear cause and effect logic is inadequate to explain and understand our reality within the conscious energy of Qi and the quantum universe of the Tao. This is a lecture presentation on how our personal power of Qi and the quantum universe of the Tao influence effective and successful decision-making and its actualization in space and time. Before we begin, I want to reiterate that the terms cognitive and cognition refer to activities and processes of awareness and knowing of the mind, such as perceiving, conceiving, remembering, reasoning, judging, imagining, and problem solving, where understanding and comprehension of thoughts, ideas, and beliefs can project future consequences and events. I also want to state that I group emotions, moods, attitudes, and feelings together because they either feel good as an evolved indicator of a healthy biochemical and neurological physiology, or feel bad as an evolved indicator of an unhealthy biochemical and neurological physiology. Does a coach or an athlete have the cognitive emotional awareness to understand that bad feeling emotion, moods, attitudes, and feelings are evolutionary indicators of a disempowering, disabling, and ineffective neurological and biochemical physiology? Does a coach or an athlete have the cognitive emotional awareness to understand that bad feeling emotion, moods, attitudes, and feelings are leading indicators of an unwanted nor desired personal power of Qi that radiates throughout the Tao to align the intersection and rendezvous of people, places, and events that are not wanted, nor desired, nor intended? And then does the athlete or coach have the capacity to reprocess their disempowering, emotionally negative cognitions, especially during the heat of competition on the field of play, into empowering, emotionally positive cognitions that correlate with a healthy biochemical and neurological physiology and the actualization throughout time and space of a superior world-class performance? The mountain exists as it does because we have been taught to believe it so. We see the mountain as a mountain because that is how we have been taught. Being taught has special significance here. It means an idea has been instilled or implanted in us from the beliefs of those around us during our formative years, especially from our parents. As we grow, we learn of concepts like time, time of day, day of the week, months, and years. We learn the constructs of the past, the present, and the future. And we learn the construct of linear cause and effect, where the cue ball hits the 8 ball, which goes into the pocket. Or if I put my hand on the hot stove, then my hand will painfully burn. What happens today affects what we experience tomorrow. What if a future event could influence a past event? The conscious energy of Qi can reach through time and space within the quantum universe of the Tao The energy of Chi can reach into the future and the past and influence the past and future to match an athlete's cognitive emotional dynamics of the present. Just because our Western culture and beliefs only see a linear cause and effect mountain does not mean other mountain ranges do not exist. We just have never been taught to look and recognize their possibility and workings all around us in everyday life. After high school graduation, a friend and I took a trip to the Northwest Territories of Canada, way up on the Arctic Circle, to canoe on the South Nahanni River. While walking around Fort Simpson, we met a Native American and told him where we were headed. He highlighted that he would be up there in a couple of months and maybe we would run into each other. Steve and I looked at each other. Our plans were to be back home in Wisconsin in 3 weeks. That is linear time, as when representing time on a line. But what if time were spatial, not one-dimensional, but two? Then time would not be linear, but an area. And then what does past, present, and future mean? What is the future present tense? The first America's Cup race was held in 1851 and was won by the yacht America. The United States won every challenge since until 1984, when the Australians John Bertrand in Australia 2 beat the invincible Dennis Conner and his boat Liberty. This is the focus of a current Netflix documentary called Untold, the Race of the Century. John Bertrand makes a very revealing disclosure during the movie. On the second to the last leg in the seventh and deciding race, when Dennis Conner had an insurmountable lead, John Bertrand talks about being in two places at once. He was perceiving what the wind was doing now and what the wind was doing 10 to 15 seconds in the future. With that foresight, he was able to take advantage of every wind shift, and Australia 2 went on to defeat Dennis Conner, and for the first time in history, after 133 years, the America's Cup was no longer in America. While teaching high school architectural drafting in Whitefish Bay, Wisconsin, I experienced my own 10 to 15 second precognitive future. As I was teaching, I began living the near future at the same time. Unlike John Bertrand's experience, mine was disorienting, confusing, and I had no objective framework to keep order. Out of necessity, I took a short break and secluded myself in an empty room while the interdimensional time events subsided. For your information, Hollywood made a movie in 2007 about this phenomenon called Next, starring Nicolas Cage, where a magician could see into the near future. As an athlete in competitive sport, what would the advantage be of knowing your competitor's actions 10 to 15 seconds before it happened? Seattle Seahawks lost the Super Bowl championship game because of a goal line interception. In the interview, the defensive back told of a clairvoyant dream where he intercepted the ball on the goal line to win the game. In the fall of 2013, I had a dream that the Wisconsin men's basketball team was in the Final Four. They were in the finals at the end of that season and the next. What is time? We always think of time like on a ruler and count out the years. We need to think of time as more of a cognitive construct, and instead of one-dimensional timeline, there is a multi-dimensional time space, where a person's conscious energy travels into the future and the past and rearranges events that we experience in time now and space here. Chi is the energy of consciousness that can reach into the future and influence a future rendezvous of people, places, and events, and also reach into the past, influence a past rendezvous of people, places, and events that accumulates within our experience where time is now and space is here. PBS has a YouTube series called Space Time with PhD physicist Matt O'Dowd. A couple of episodes are: 1, Do past and future exist? And two, what if space and time are created by our brains? What is the quantum reality of the Tao? Past, present, and future all exist now, but in a different place. The future that exists now is not the future when it became the present here. The past that exists now is not the past that existed then when here. An athlete's personal power and force of consciousness called Chi can reach through time and space and change the past and the future to match their cognitive emotional being in the present, when time is now and where space is here. Past, present, and future all exist now, but in a different place. The future that exists now, A, is not the future when it becomes the present here, B. The past that exists now, C, is not the past that existed then when here, D. An athlete's personal power and force of consciousness called Chi can reach through time and space and change the past and the future to match their cognitive emotional being in the present, when time is now and when space is here. Time now exists both in the past, area D, and the future, area B. In January 1974, after the first semester of my junior year, I dropped out of the university where at Madison and went on tour of Mexico. I had been trying to work a graveyard shift all night and go to classes during the day. That just did not work. My parents were taking a caravan tour of the Yucatan Peninsula in their camper, and I went along as a co-driver. I was excited because we were going to Oaxaca, and I had been reading the book, The Fire from Within, a story about Don Juan and Carlos Castaneda in Oaxaca. And sure enough, when in Oaxaca, walking to the local market, I saw two people that I would swear fit the exact description of Don Juan and Carlos Castaneda. I was so set on going to the market that I did not stop to talk to them. Now segue to 2021. A couple years ago, when I was writing about that trip as part of a memoir writing class, I ran into a problem. That trip to Oaxaca, where I thought I saw Don Juan and Castaneda, was in 1974. But I first heard of Don Juan and Castaneda when talking to a former high school teacher in 1979. And the book I was reading was not published until 1984. Somehow my experiences in 1974, 1979, and in 1984 became entangled into one event in 1974. If you've ever seen the movie Arrival, it has a similar time twist of nonlinear time. What is time and space but a cognitive construct of the mind to make sense of a quantum universe, the Tao, and our conscious energy called Chi in a three-dimensional world construct? Our three-dimensional brain is an interface between our three-dimensional physical reality of objects and linear cause and effect and our many-dimensional quantum reality of nonlinear spatial cause and effect called the Tao. What I have built here is a cognitive construct, an allegory of time to occupy the mind. Its understanding is not necessary. What is necessary to understand is how your cognitive emotional reprocessing awareness to reconstruct disempowering negative feeling cognitions into empowering positive feeling cognitions. An individual's outward reality and experience are but a reflection of their inner cognitive emotional being. As a mechanic, either as a professional working in the fields during green pea harvest, for Delmonte Foods or as a hobbyist in my early years out of necessity to keep my Austin Healy 106 functioning, and later working on any number of hard water ice boats and soft water sailboats, I always had a nuts and bolts bin full of multitude of assorted fasteners. My game, when I needed a fastener, was to keep searching and hunting through the fast and disorganized array of nuts and bolts until the nut I needed would magically appear. I didn't always find what I needed, but over the decades of playing this game, I came to believe that the more than not, what I desired, wanted, and intended would be there in that disorganized and magical box of miscellaneous nuts and bolts. Enjoying life is necessary for the actualization of that which is wanted, desired, and intended. If an athlete or coach wants, desires, and intends to succeed in sports, competition, and to have a successful world-class performance, they must enjoy themselves. For within their joy lies their conscious energy of chi that radiates out through time and space, the past and the future, and molds, shapes, and transforms the amorphous soup of potentialities of the Tao into the team's experiences in the present. The mind shapes reality. Emotions indicate the desirability of that shape. When joy and good feelings permeate your life, practice, and competition, good things happen. I wish you all a successful and joyous life. It is all there for you to enjoy and to make whatever you desire, want, and intend. Namaste.